Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Browns post-game show. The final score, whatever the hell it was. What was it? 16-6. That sounds
160-6. Let's just go with that.
I'm gonna quote a movie. There is no prosthetic for an amputated spirit.
And I would go with an amputated heart.
Yeah, well, it's obvious at this point that whatever Joe Woods has tried to communicate through 8 weeks has been an abysmal failure. His system is an abysmal failure, and his players are an abysmal failure. Because you cannot come into a game this certain about what's going to be the style of play and just be beaten repeatedly. But that's not the first thing. The amputated spirit begins really before the first snap. And I don't know if anybody is going to, and that's right, by the way, General Dog, that's right. You correctly identified the motion picture. Hooah.
Well, mine was more of the replacements.
Yeah. Maybe somebody can answer me this so that it makes sense, because I may be missing something very, very obvious. But I'm going to give everybody on the panel and in the chat room an opportunity to answer this question. How do you start out the game giving up the ball and giving up the wind in the same decision? If somebody can explain this to me simply, then I would say, okay, then I just don't understand the strategy. But this, in my mind, is Marty Morningweg-ish. He basically handed the first offensive effort to the other team so that he would be playing against a 35 to 40 mile an hour wind in the fourth quarter of what really was bound to be a close game. Now, we'll start with Tony the Calf. Yeah. Explain this decision to me.
I don't know if he thought that they'd be up, that they'd ride the momentum from last week. But that was really questionable. I can't explain it. That's piss poor coaching. Very piss poor coaching.
Brian, I mean, any explanation?
I don't know. He had to have been playing the fucking percentages. But this is what analytics gives us.
Well, I mean, I'm not even going to buy that, because that's not what analytics gives us. That's what Stefanski gave us. And I'm trying to figure out what the rationale is. That didn't come up from an analytics booth. That's the head coach's decision. Hammer time, what would be the explanation that somebody would give for doing that? All I want to know is to try to figure out why.
You got me. It makes no sense at all, because if you think about it, particularly unless they saw something on the weather report that thought it was going to change the weather, it wasn't going to become as much of a factor. But I mean, seriously, you're in Cleveland. It's outdoors. It's November as of today. It's going to be an issue. That's just dumb. Lots of dumb there.
Well, I mean, so, and that would be the first question I would ask Stefanski, because it is fire-worthy. Making decisions like this is worthy of being fired. If your team doesn't do well and you make decisions like this, first of all, it just defies all possible logic. When that game started, I said, this is the Jekyll and Hyde Kevin Stefanski. He has a real solid game call, and then all of a sudden he's doing double pitch outs and shit. And I have not seen consistency. So right off the bat, I'm going to take Kevin Stefanski to task and say that he was a contributing factor in the loss. Second of all, obviously, a defensive line that cannot tackle, cannot penetrate, and is just getting pushed around. This is
the word is impotent.
More in keeping with what we have seen in the last several decades from the Browns. Same old Browns. is that they give up that much rushing yardage to a team that is a lousy rushing team in a game where the weather took care of the passing nightmare. The passing defense nightmare that is the Cleveland Browns didn't really amount to much today because we couldn't really throw the ball. So what happens?
But when they did throw the ball, these fuckers are wide the hell open. Wide the hell open.
Yeah, look, the Raiders have a lousy pass defense, give a lot of passes. This is going to be the third question, but I'm going through this piece by piece. Don't get ahead of me. I mean, I am so totally befuddled at, and you stack men on this line of scrimmage and they still run through you.
I think their lowest gain was 1 yard.
It's like someone had to fuck up to manage to lose this game, because it couldn't be the secondary that's done it every other loss and virtually every other game. Couldn't be them. The one unit that could have won the game for the Cleveland Browns doesn't show up. For the first time all year, they don't show up. And they have no spirit. They're just standing there getting pushed around like little Sally in the playground.
Well,
That's what
you got Wills fucking false starting all over the goddamn place.
Wills had a bad game.
Yeah, he had 2. That was probably his worst game as far as for penalties. And he didn't do a bad job in pass blocking. I don't think it was horrible there. My comment though was if you switch to offense, but stay with your defense though. If you switch to offense, Baker was freaking a nervous little Nelly back there in the pocket every time. He had plenty of time in the pocket. He was only pressured a couple of times. Once he stepped up, he had there was not a big deal going on there at any time during the game. And it was the same thing with Carr. The one strength of the defense, the front line. How many pressures did David Carr have? None. 0.
Sean,
Zero.
Stop it, Sean. Stop it. The refs didn't cost us a damn thing. And if they made any bad calls, good, because the Raiders came to play and we did not.
They were able to overcome the touchdown that was overturned and some of the other stuff. So, kudos to them.
Another bad take. No, there was nothing wrong with Baker Mayfield in the game. All right. There was nothing wrong with Baker Mayfield in the game. He had to come in after the other team consistently had 12 and 15 play drives, come in cold with a still hurt rib, and have at least 6 passes dropped. Clearly.
That was brutal.
I mean, you're going to blame Baker Mayfield for fucking Njoku, who's not going to be on the team anymore. Praise the baby Jesus.
Or Bryant's fumble after a nice play, or
you can't blame Baker for Jarvis Landry. That fucking touchdown that should have been caught. There's no.
Well, it was a fingertips thing, and look, on a tough day to adjust to the ball.
He freaking paid Jarvis back at the end of the game, throwing that one in the end zone. He got drilled.
Almost got fucking beheaded.
God.
Yeah, but
he'll show up in 2 weeks anyway and play on one fucking leg, The
pass was where it needed to be thrown, but they're playing in a zone and surrounding the guy who is the best receiver for us on the field. That was a perfectly thrown ball. The ball to Njoku was a perfectly thrown ball. The ball that was thrown to Kareem Hunt. I'm just going off of quick memory here. I haven't seen this game a second time. Went right through his hands. A perfectly good throw. I mean, you can't continually put the ball on the money and have your people drop it. But with that said, we're going to go back to Kevin Stefanski and ask him a real simple question. If you're playing a horrible defensive secondary, why wouldn't you try to throw the ball more? All right. Why wouldn't you try to at least throw some intermediate passes and try to get off the schneid early? And the reason is because Kevin Stefanski wanted to lose because he gave them the ball, he gave them the wind, and he gave them the game plan. For fucking Christ's sake, how could you possibly coach a worse football game than this? It is impossible. Every bad decision that could be made, it's like, well, weather's talked us out of attacking their weakness. And you know what they did? They attacked our weakness. I'm a great coach.
No, come on. It certainly could have been way out there. I mean, come on. He had several of those moments.
Go back to Parma. Go back to Parma, Stefanski. Go back. There's no time. See, and when I was saying before we went on the air, having you're breaking up, Brian. Check your internet connection. Threw me off what I was going to say. At any rate, you don't give yourself a chance if you're not attacking a team's weakness. And I can tell you this. We never threatened them in any means. We pull the ball down the field because the wind was going to carry it all over the place. And now, number 4, if you think you're going to win with Ricky Parkey, think again. The only person in the stadium who didn't realize things were blowing right to left was Ricky lame-ass Parkey. And I'm sick of him and every bad kicker that we've seen in Cleveland. He will never kick the important field goal. Not that that was important because we would never get the ball back again. But the fact is the mental process is just lacking. And this whole game, the mental process from the coaching staff, from Stefanski to Woods, to the spirit of the defense and the actual effort, the truth is Gruden challenged his players and they rose to the occasion. And Stefanski set up a hammock in the goddamn Berea complex and snoozed. I have no idea. Players were not prepared for this. And I'll tell you something, number 5. If you wanted an answer to a question as to why the Browns get thwomped every time they play the Ravens and the Steelers, it's because they're soft. They're soft. And no matter how they try to hide it and claim every fucking year that we're going to be a more physical team because that's what you have to do in order to play in the AFC North. I look like the goddamn puppet of the ventriloquist, Walter. It's like Jesus fucking Christ.
They didn't even try to force the fucking Raiders to throw.
Well, it didn't matter because the defensive line was in a quagmire. I mean, they couldn't get any traction and put any pressure on. They just weren't there. They just didn't show up.
Yeah, after Vernon got the 2 sacks, forget it. They got nothing.
You live week to week in the NFL, and that's when the losing streaks come. You have to get ahead of things and win winnable games. And when you continue to hover like they're hovering, then all it takes is another injury. And I see now that Myles Garrett is getting an MRI. All it takes is one more injury, one more bad thing, and the season goes to hell. You have to stay ahead of things. We were in a position until Njoku drops that fucking pass. We're in a position to actually do something in this game. The game was not like a blowout from the standpoint of points on the board. It was a blowout statistically because they dominated the ball for 35 minutes to our 22 minutes. It's pathetic. The whole thing is pathetic. But
and this is a team that's built to do that, though. On the other side, though, that's kind of they pretty much did our. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I just watched Aaron Rodgers just get drilled in the back by Tony's Vikings.
Damn it! I didn't want to lose that game.
And another thing. Here you go. I mean, it's like watching Sendejo week after week after week. I mean, he is a walking, talking yards after contact, but he's the tackler, not the runner. He is the confused one who goes the wrong way. And what could have been a touchdown to Ruggs was fortunately deemed aroundable by review, but Sendejo went the wrong way. It's just
Andrew Berry better get his ass on the phone ASAP because there's good players out there defensively to get. I don't care what it takes. At this point, you need so much help. Just go out and get bodies. Because who you got right now fucking sucks.
No, Kevin, Njoku just needs to go. That's
another guy that needs to fucking go.
You know what, though? I think for him, in the long run, a change of place will be a good thing.
Not going to change his hands.
He might be able to hang in the league for a few more years, but it's going to be good for the Browns just to kind of get that out of there and move on to the guys they got.
The definition of Njoku is the guy who catches the incredible touchdown pass in the end zone and then lets the ball doink off his body in a critical moment of a game. The inconsistency.
On a third down.
Yeah, the inconsistency week in, week out of this player that we've seen for years, and the dream is greater than the reality. He can't catch the ball. He's like Willis Adams was back in the late 70s. He's a guy who seriously can't catch the football consistently, and he doesn't block. So to hell with him.
Yeah, and Spiels was all over him. Well, Spiels was all over him about the same thing. He goes, I don't understand why these guys try to catch the ball with their body when they should just be making that, catching the ball with their hands and doing it that way. Because he goes, had he done that, he had a much better chance of moving it down the field. It's
probably a mental thing because he knows he can't fucking catch, so he tries to bring it in with his body, and that doesn't help.
That's what happened to Willis Adams. Willis Adams, would try to catch everything with his body because he didn't trust his hands. And Njoku doesn't trust his hands because he doesn't have good hands. And he's not a professional tight end because he doesn't do the complete job. And two, just because he can run fast, it doesn't matter if you don't catch the ball.
Another waste of a first-round fucking pick.
But these are examples of, and I really at this point don't blame Njoku. I blame the organization because, again, you can't keep putting a man out on the field who doesn't put you in a position to win. And
he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, exactly right. A guy who doesn't even want to play. That's right. He's going to be a really great addition somewhere. And he is. He's a big red zone target if he catches the ball. But based on the type of offense that we run, which I'm not even sure from week to week what it is, because I'm really beginning to wonder about whether we have, in fact, hired an incompetent head coach again, because it has been erratic this year. There have been games that have just been flawlessly called and designed, and then things that from the get-go, he Marty Morningleg, and then he turns around and doesn't even try to throw the ball until the game is over and out of reach. And they do move the ball down the field, but in the process, once they crunch down by the end zone, because you have to throw into the end zone, Landry almost got his head torn off. But there's no excuse for having no balance on the field whatsoever. And there's also no excuse if you're really – I always get the feeling that we don't really commit to anything because our defense is on the field for such long periods of time that our offense never really gets to establish nearly enough control over the game.
Seems like we're really missing Teller in that run game to make holes.
Well, the person that they're really missing is Nick fucking Chubb. He would have been great in this goddamn game.
Well, and you know what, Brian, you kind of said it right there. If you think about those two guys, before they got hurt, they were having Pro Bowl type seasons. Even in the game against the Ravens, they played well. They played well. These are two stellar guys. These are two people that are top 10 at their position, possibly. And at least the way Teller's playing this year and how he played later. But, that's a big loss on the offensive line.
again, Krembley, what's the surprise is that they have gotten worse as the season's gone on. So, you're going to look at it one of two ways, and maybe a little of both. That the system that they're playing is poor, and that the people who are playing in the system are poor athletes. And I think there's truth probably in both. I mean, Joe Woods came from a situation where he had, he had, secondary and linebacker guys who could get the job done, and he's running the same scheme. And, I really wonder about this too, whether Joe Woods was Stefanski's first choice for defensive coordinator. You never know. That might be a Haslam special. You just
remember this. Joe Woods was a secondary coach. On the Niners, he had that stout front four. He didn't have to coach them. He just told them to go, and they went. So he comes to Cleveland, and he's got one good defensive player and a bunch of bums in the back end with all these fucking injuries. So we can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's not like the boots were open to run, and there was a play where Baker chose to run it himself when he could have thrown the ball to Kareem Hunt, who would have gotten a hell of a lot more yardage. But I really have I have questions, or as Meryl Streep would have said at the end of another movie, I have doubts. This from week to week is inconsistent in what we say we want to be. I mean, it should have been obvious from the get-go that, the Browns played in a mud bowl and a sleep bowl here, and I only remember them kicking once, punting once. Is that correct?
There was at least a couple, because there was the one where they tried to down it in the end zone and had it back. There's a couple other ones that he kicked out of bounds early on.
It should have been a punt test.
Yeah.
But no.
Gillen had 2 punts.
How was
Gillen
that
had
one?
2 punts, but what about them?
How was that
they only
one
punted
punt?
once.
Yeah.
I
think you called it there with that weather back in the, normally you would consider that to be one of those where you can't get any traction. The ball gets punted, and then the other team 3 and out, or 5, 6 and out, and then they punt the other way. And
But if all they have to do is hand the ball off, and it's an automatic 6 yards,
Right up the middle.
Yeah, and there's no gut playing against them. And I really wonder at this point whether the players are just inept or they just don't want to play. They just don't want to play in this system, or for this coach, or for whatever. There's no pride. And so, Greg, will the Browns feel the pressure to bring Chubb back? I mean, there ain't going to be no pressure. He's either healed or he's not healed. And the truth is,
timeline-wise, he should be fine for Houston.
Well, and the Texans will have a breakthrough game against the Cleveland Browns if they can.
That's the thing. It's we were hoping. I had a feeling that between one of these two games, either the Raiders or the Texans, we're going to lay an egg. We've already laid an egg today. Hopefully, we won't lay an egg in 2 weeks. But that's that thing. It's just like, the Texans are reeling this year, and you know what? For them, that's going to be a big moment if they can beat the Browns and push them back. They're going to be up for that game, because they know that we're vulnerable.
Boy, there's nothing coming out of Stefanski's pressure other than we just didn't make enough plays.
Yeah, well, and that goes for him. I find him the most responsible for this because there is no preparation as far as I can see. I mean, you have an opportunity to go 6-2 before the break. You have an opportunity in your home stadium, and you play another game that is so reminiscent of so many games in the past where you just lay down for your opponent and let them run the ball at will at you. Everybody in Cleveland is so sick of this. And with the coach saying, that's why we're coming here, because we know that, up in the north, the weather is the weather, and, we're right on a lake, and we got to play that kind of hard hat, lunch bucket kind of football. And it never happens. It never happens. We never have any defensive linemen. And I'm tired of Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett can rush around the end. But what about the people who are the interior linemen who are supposed to be stopping the running game? And anyway, what can Myles Garrett do by himself? You tell me. What can he do?
And not only that, if you've seen the close-ups on Ogunjobi and Richardson, they were panting for dear life because they were on the field so much, and they were getting blown up every play.
Yeah, I mean,
Ogunjobi got completely lifted off the ground, 3 feet off the goddamn ground on a running play. We got submarined that bad.
Yeah, they were just literally making room for whoever handled the ball. And as far as third down conversions, the Browns have been giving up third and fourth down conversions like there's no tomorrow. They don't stop people, and it becoming the overwhelming thing. And I'm so tired about hearing about Baker Mayfield. It's not that. It's not that. And there are people who say, Odell wasn't out there. Odell Beckham would have been crying like little Nancy. It's too cold out here. I don't want to play.
He would have made it worse. He'd been bitching on the sideline.
Well, he would have been no part of the game plan because there was nothing going down.
The only way that he would have been part of the game plan is if they did another fucking end around.
Yeah, that's if they ran the ball. And I was kind of expecting to see one of those or something. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. That's so funny about this is that we get these weird play calls, and in the most conservative, harsh weather conditions possible, there's no misdirection at all. Nothing. No. The head coach just laid an egg. I mean, and I'm not saying the answer is running, trick plays, but I think that you've got to try to take advantage of the weakness of the other team.
Well, they got 11 yards on the fucking end around.
What adjustments were made at halftime? That's right. Not a single one.
Maybe.
Hey, looking at this play, at least Sendejo got a few tackles this game. Did something right.
Well, one time the guy ran into him, for Christ's sake. I mean, come on. Even you or I could do that if the guy ran into us. It was the tackle by default.
Hey, I mean, Derek Carr still completed 60% of his passes, 15 of 24 passes. All right.
And he got a fucking naked bootleg for 18 yards.
That's right. Yeah, you're just sitting there watching that guy running the football. I mean, there's no speed, there's no athleticism on our defensive line, and there's no desire.
And Jones and Booker just bullied the shit out of them.
Yeah, and you're
5-6 yards a click.
You're home in an inclement weather situation, and what do you do when you're Kevin Stefanski? Well, I'm going to do Walter again. You know what we're going to do? What we're going to do, got to turn my head like that. What we're going to do is we're going to give the ball to them and rely on our defense, which never stopped anybody. All right. So that's the definition of what the coach chose to do. I mean, it's, you could have taken the ball and said, something, we're going to establish something in this quagmire and we got to get ahead in this game. But no. We are immediately down in the game, and we were playing from behind from that point forth. We could never really get over the hump.
Oh, yeah. Rick has a good one. Garrett was capable of jumping off sides and giving them a free play at the end of a quarter. He was more than capable of doing that.
And I'll tell you, this guy here, I don't know, you off your game, dude? The wide receivers blew it. You know what I would normally say? You don't want to know what I would normally say about that. It would have something to do with blowing, but it wouldn't be the wide receiver.
Something for you to blow in my trousers.
That would generally be the kind of thing I say. I mean, the wide receivers, how did they blow it? I mean, the fact of the matter is, yes, there were some drop passes, but wide receivers – so Landry got drilled in the end zone on a ball and tried to lay out for a ball after he had made a spectacular hugging the sidelines run to gain extra yardage to put him in position to score that touchdown. And, so I'm not going to blame him for that. So a tight end is not a wide receiver. It's just Njoku being Njoku. And Kareem Hunt is not a wide receiver. So I don't know. I don't remember hearing Kadarius Hodges' name. I don't remember hearing Higgins' name until the end of the game with 4 minutes.
That was his first catch. That was Higgins' first catch.
The only other time we heard it was when they had that pass on the sidelines that he got pushed out of bounds.
And we didn't see Hodge on the field, but a few times. There a couple times he lined up in the slot. But it was very rare that I even saw him on the field. So
and people are going to instantly want to blame Baker for this. This game is not on Baker. Baker did the best he can with what he was given. Defense was terrible. Could not establish a run game. Pathetic. Wide open passes dropped.
Yeah. No, I mean, and this is the bottom line. There are 3 or 4 teams that will be fighting for the 7th playoff spot, and you got to bring it every week. This was an eminently winnable football game that the defense didn't even show up for. There was no – there is one gear we're stuck in. And
makes Tennessee game important.
The Raiders had an extra gear, and it's because John Gruden is a better coach than Kevin Stefanski. And that's scary to say because John Gruden hasn't been relevant for some while now. But he was able to communicate the importance of this game to his team better than Stefanski was to his. And that is part of the job. You got to be a motivator. You got to sell a plan. You got to be able, to be a leader. You got to be able to sell what the main plan is. And again, this is really funny. Yeah, from where on the field, dude? Again, this was bound to be a low-scoring game. The weather was as bad as what we thought it was going to be on Friday, and the adjustments weren't made. I really believe that using the center of the field was available based on the number of drop passes where receivers were open. I really believe that there were opportunities that were lost in the play calling. I don't think that any of the running plays were designed to be big gainers or catch you by surprise, misdirection things to get big chunks of yards. And nothing the Raiders did was either, except that they ran through us like hot knife through a butter. But no, the Browns had nothing in their game plan that could have possibly shaken loose for any yardage. None. Not a single play call could have made a difference in this weather. And that's bad play calling, bad choice of plays, unknowing full well what the weather was going to be. So I'm taking it back. 100% of this is on the head coach. 100%. Because the players themselves, I don't know what's going on defensively. I don't, but look, I've lived long enough to see that Larry Ogunjobi is not the answer because, 1 or 2 good games does not a career make. And, Olivier Vernon and Sheldon Richardson are obviously, Vernon wants to go somewhere else because his name is being bandied about as far as trade wires are concerned. And, Sheldon Richardson is just a has-been. He's a has-been who's perpetually hurt. And we don't have, and when Porter Gustin is playing every down, there's going to be something that is exposed. He's going to play hard, but from a technique perspective, they were just running the ball at the right side of our line, or it would have been on the left side of our line, just right down our throat, running the same place over and over and over again. And there was nothing that was going to stop them. And again, for how many times this year, and this one goes on to Joe Woods, how many times can you let a quarterback slower beat you on a quarterback draw? How many weeks in a row do we have to see the entire field in the middle wide open, and so the quarterback just takes 1 or 2 steps back and goes, and he just runs right up the middle because there's nothing. It's like the Red Sea parting in front of him.
They had that same formation on when they were close to goal to go, and they had that same hole right up the middle. And I'm like thinking, what the hell are y'all doing? Somebody's got to fill that gap. And eventually, finally, they did at the last second. But I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. Like you said, right? Doing it over and over again is just insanity. You got to fix it. And that's just crazy. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
Now, this is one thing that we can both agree on. This was a poor effort, and it's not worthy of a playoff game. It wasn't just Carr and Burrow. It's look back at every quarterback who that we allowed to just run right through us, and it isn't Lamar Jackson. It isn't the greatest athletes in the world.
500 yards to Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I mean, and they let him run a quarterback draw untouched into the end zone. We've seen this all year, and something's got to give. It's a shame to give up a season with such glaring deficiencies, and you're so weak on that side of the ball. I think something has to be done to get better personnel in. And by the end of the year, I think Stefanski had better select his defensive coordinator if Joe Woods wasn't his first choice, or it was just another bad Stefanski decision, because the worm is starting to turn and everybody's under the microscope, and you can't keep coming in to a goddamn post-game conference saying, we just left plays on the field. And then when you're in front of the press later on, say, well, there's things I've got to do better. I'm getting very bored, and I'm getting very petulant, and I'm getting to the point where this is beginning to sound like other head coaches who are not really taking responsibility for what, they just say what sounds good, but they don't get smarter and they don't get better at what they do. I want to point out something else that will just enrages me more than anything else, and that's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick does not belong in the Hall of Fame, and I'm going to be the only person in America who says that. Tom Brady deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Bill Belichick made sure he came out with a great Belichick quote, because Belichick never says nothing to the press. He never says nothing. Old Mumbles never said dick about anything all through the years that he was winning, because he was given games by the officials. He was best buddies with Kraft, the hand job king, and with the commissioner. So what does he say? I think our problem is the salary cap. You mean the same fucking salary cap that every other team in the league has to adhere to? Oh, for fucking Christ's sake. Yeah, we don't have enough depth. It's them. It's not me. No mention of Brady missing,
Yeah. When you lose probably the best quarterback of our generation.
Yeah.
But his whole career before that quarterback of a generation was a losing record.
Yeah.
God damn it. Fucking Pittsburgh won.
Yep.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, Pittsburgh always wins.
Pittsburgh won, Cincy won.
The Ravens had a chance to win that with 8 seconds left.
Hey,
at the 20-yard line.
but one thing that was for certain that did happen is the Jets managed to lose again. So thank God for that. Although there was a collective gasp when they found out that Sunshine Trevor Lawrence had contracted COVID, and their entire hopes were dashed for a couple of seconds. But I guess he's getting better now, so.
Yeah, it's
so they can go back to losing.
99% recovery rate.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, no, we're not going to go there. Not today. There's enough shitty stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I'm going to be more interested in the trade deadline than the presidential election. I'll tell you that. It will be interesting to see what happens. And whether the Browns do anything.
This was not the best audition for David Njoku if we're going to get value for him.
Well, we're not.
He just dropped to a 5th round pick.
You can't get value.
He was never above a 6th-round pick.
They probably could have got a 4th
right.
for him or something. It's just
not going to get anything for him. And I mean, the truth is, even flop first round pick quarterbacks, you don't get no value for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once the worm turns, the organization says, "Man, we're done fucking around with Sam Darnold or whoever." Then teams come knocking at the door saying, "I'll give you a 3rd and a 6th round for him." That's what you get. And Njoku, and Njoku's already told the world, "I don't really want to be here. I want to be traded." So there is no trade value for him. But again, it's addition by subtraction. He's not happy, and he's not very good at what he does. So, no, he already has Rick. Belichick has already stated that, if Cam doesn't stop making his mistakes, we're going to have to bench him. We're going to have to do that. And it's like there's always the boogeyman for Bill Belichick. And it's never himself. But, there's always a chance that a vehicle with a Trump 2020 flying, I saw something today that was crazy shit. They're flying a lot of vehicles with Trump and
you mean driving slow in the middle lane of the freeway? Yeah, those fuckers. We know them.
Big flag.
I don't care what flag they got. Anybody that drives slow on the freeway is pissing me off.
Hey, at least it's not the fucking mayor sending out a goddamn horse down the fucking interstate.
That's stupid too. Any of that stuff is stupid.
And then they end up back and to fucking kill the goddamn horse because they made it lame by doing that stupid shit.
But what I saw has nothing to do with politics. The flag was so big that when they were making turns, it was covering the windshield. I mean, what kind of, how could they allow that car to be driving on the road?
Yeah.
It was literally covering, and I'm pointing out to Rox. I'm saying, "Hey, Rox, look at the fucking flag. What the hell is that?" And
hey, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right?
No, the conclusion we came to is it doesn't matter because anybody who would have that flag up driving is blind anyway. But still, be that as it may, times we're living in. I hope the Browns do something come, the trade deadline time, because we got to do something.
For the first time in a long time. They're in a position where if they can make a couple of little moves, it might make a difference. Most of the time it makes no difference at all. They're just going to play out the string. But at this point in time, I mean, 5-3 is still not bad. All right. I'm not going to complain too much. It should be 6-2. Sure. But there's still winnable games left. There are certainly 4 or 5 more games on the list that we're going to be favored in, at least 4, if not 5. So that opportunity is there.
But you know what bothers me about it all?
We're going to lose some of those though too, probably.
Well, what bothers me about it is we're in an environment where every one of our home games is likely to have weather similar to what we saw today or some kind of inclement weather. And if this is how we handle that, you're going to lose many more home games in the second half of the season. The weather's been great up till now, but and this was a tough, but it wasn't tough for the Raiders because they got up for it. For the Browns, it was difficult. And if your defense gets pushed around the way that the Browns defensive line got pushed around, we're going to have all kinds of grief. Immediately we're going to lose again to the Ravens and the Steelers with 100% certainty. There's no way we can ever beat those teams constructed the way we presently are.
Well, the Steelers game is the very last game of the season. So if they are resting everybody, there is a chance that the Browns can steal that game.
But
the part of that though, Brian, is how bad is it going to look when they're already resting everyone and we still get our asses kicked? That's the part that's really going to be bad. They're going to have.
You'll see Tomlin will get his second stringers ready to play, and I'm telling you that the problem that I'm seeing is when I see the Browns kick it into gear like they did against the Bengals, and it's like, this is a team that doesn't feel like they need to play 4 quarters of football. They're not being motivated very well because they have not played 4 quarters of football in one game all season long.
And they're going to lose to the Titans too, because if this run defense shows up against Derrick Henry, he's going to have 300 fucking yards and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, he'll run until he doesn't want to run anymore. He'll still be running. Yeah.
But the answer to this famous thing is with a chance at the playoff, only if you show up. And the truth of the matter is, predicated on what I saw today, they're not going to show up. They don't care. There is no spirit. They have been amputated for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. But if you can't come out to a home game in a situation like this, where it's going to be a low-scoring game, and figure out a way to score, 17 points, if you can't do that, and you start out by gifting the opposition not only the ball, but all possible field position when the game is in doubt, you can't win. So they're not going to make the playoffs. I'll guarantee you they're not going to make the playoffs, no matter how easy their schedule is, because bad decision-making is bad decision-making. And, bad play calls are bad play calls. We had one turnover today, and it wasn't the turnovers that got us. It was Stefanski who killed us from the beginning of the game. And then it was our wide receivers not being thrown to as part of the game plan. We should have come out in the second half of the game with some kind of renewed plan on what we needed to do. But instead, it just looked the same slovenly, disinterested kind of, lackadaisical effort. Drop passes are to be blamed as well. You obviously can't do that. But
Wable had a great point though on the thing that you brought up there, though. Moo, was the fact that yes, we're complaining about or what's going on or whatever, and in years past, this would be a situation where we'd be thrilled to be 5-3. But watching the effort today. Right. Is what makes this bad, and actually the effort in most of the game last week until the last half, it was the same kind of thing. The effort made you feel bad about this worse than it did by only losing by 10 points. The Raiders are not a horrible team. They're not a good team, but they're not a horrible team. They're a team that's going to win.
If you want to know what the difference between a 6-2 team, a 5-3 team, and a 3-5 team, nothing.
No,
nothing.
A couple breaks here and there.
Yeah. The Bengals beat the Titans.
Yeah,
and the fact of the matter is that we couldn't beat John fucking Gruden in our home stadium.
No,
we couldn't do it. So if you want to know what the difference is between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs, it's the difference between 10-6, 9-7, or it's that one game where you gave up 170 or whatever yards rushing to Secretariat after it had been put down. That's what the deal is, and that's why it's so discouraging. We can say, we're in the running, but. Man, the team didn't look like a team that believes it's in the running. They didn't want this game nearly as much as the Raiders wanted it. That's what's obvious. And that's the eye test. So
defense can overcome anything. Look at the Dolphins today. They won 28-17. Tua was like 12 of 21 for 93 yards and a touchdown.
Well, they had a kick return for a touchdown and a defensive touchdown.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Is this true? The Browns through 7 games have given up most points in franchise history. That might be true. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not.
They give up points. That's for darn sure. How many games do we have 30 points in a row there for a while?
Yeah, I guess it amazes me that. Didn't even try to throw the ball in an intermediate sense against a team that is as weak. Gruden seemed to know that we were just stumble bums up front, that the real Browns would show up, but they had to stop the run and they couldn't do it. And that's kind of what we look like against the Steelers too. When push comes to shove and the rubber meets the road, we can't stop the run, we can't stop the pass, we can't stop anything. And that's not a playoff team. You're not going to, because we don't have like the Drew Brees offense of of his period, or the Kansas City Chiefs of today. We don't have that kind of high octane offense. We can't win. We can't win with the defense the way that it is, and we can catch people by surprise. And we might be able to pull the fat out of the fire in some games, but it's a big difference between being a playoff team and being what we are right now, which is, please stay tuned next week, and the story will change a little bit. And I can't help but feel that we're this close away from a collapse. I can't help but think that another primary player is going to go down, and the spirit that is lacking on this defensive unit is going to spread, and the OBJ sickness, the Njoku sickness will spread. I can't help but think you're teetering on the edge from week to week from the exhilaration of pulling the fat out of the fire against a beginning, Bengals team in its infancy, to just giving completely flat, unprofessional effort against a team that you should have beaten. So,
yeah, it was rough. 101 yards rushing and 66. That Hunt ran hard when he got the ball.
There's no time to get the ball because look at the drives. The goddamn drives that they had were crazy. I mean, 12 and 15-yard drives. The Browns couldn't get their hands on the football.
Yeah.
So you're not going to win that way. At any rate, I'm done saying what I've got to say. I'm becoming repetitive. But we will have no difference, in my opinion, tomorrow, because lack of effort is lack of effort. And, you're not going to tell me that the refs cost us the game or, this or that. I'm just going to point out, I want to find out if somebody has the cojones to ask Stefanski what in the hell he was thinking, on the coin flip. What he was thinking.
So, in honor of that lack of effort, Moo, are you just not going to do anything for tomorrow's show to prepare, or are you going to be the professional person that you are?
I'm always professional, and we'll research what there is to research. But I mean, can you imagine when Peter Alice shows up at the coin toss? The Browns have won the toss, but somehow lost the game. Oh, look at that. What have they done? They've given the ball to the Raiders, and they've given themselves the worst wind problem on the field. And, the field goals that the Raiders kicked, were all going in the good direction. And this really laid out perfectly for them. It really did. And they were running downhill, basically, in the fourth quarter. What a great advantage to have. Thank you, Kevin Stefanski, coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. All right. All eyes will be on Garrett's MRI result. In the end, what is it? What does it mean? I don't know. I didn't see the play.
This is the end.
My only friend.
Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy Morrison. Everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in to this show. We'll be back again on Moohead Radio tomorrow, 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And make sure your clocks were, in fact, set back, or else you are really, really probably fucked up. And you probably are wondering how come things aren't.
Or you live in Arizona and you don't have to fuck around with that shit.
Yeah. You guys got one thing right out there. There you go.
Thanks, everybody, for showing up, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.